If you want to see how I made this tasty, delicious and yummy coconut jollof rice, then keep on watching. For this recipe, I'm going to be using some paprika powder, some nutmeg, 2 tins of coconut milk, minced ginger paste, thyme, rosemary, garlic powder, curry powder, some meat seasoning, some salt, and here I've got 10 fresh tomatoes, 2 scotch bonnet peppers, some bay leaves, 3 knorr cubes, and 1.5 onions. And here I've got some chicken. You can use any meat of your choice. Here I've got 5 cups of yellow parboiled rice, and this is the cup I used. This is 1 cup. I think is the standard cup for measuring stuffs like this. So I'm going to be using some cooking oil, of course. Now the first thing you want to do is to season and cook your meat. I'm going to be seasoning the meat with 2 knorr cubes, and I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of thyme, 1 teaspoon of rosemary, 1 teaspoon of the garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of the meat seasoning. If you don't have this, you can skip it. And I'm also going to add some salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and throw in 1 bay leaf. Now I'm going to slice half of the onion and add into the pot as well. We are going to cook the meat for 10 minutes without adding water to it, and the reason is for the ingredients to get into the meat properly to make it more tastier. Now after 10 minutes, you can now add 1 cup of water and continue cooking the meat until it is properly cooked. Now in another pot, we are going to add the rice, pour enough water over it, and let it parboil for about 7 to 10 minutes. So while the meat and the rice is cooking, we are going to slice up the fresh tomatoes and the remaining 1 onion. If you want, you can use a blender or food processor to process the fresh tomatoes, but I just want it a little bit chunky in my rice, so that's why I'm not going to be blending it. But if you want it to be very smooth, then you can use a blender and blend it. So after cutting the tomatoes, I also sliced the 1 onion, and I'm going to set those aside. And here is my rice after about 7 minutes of parboiling it. Once you break it, it should break, but not easily. So that's how you know that your rice is properly parboiled. And this is the meat after cooking it. I'm just going to take it out from the stock. And this is the 1 cup of water I added to the meat. Like I told you, you should add 1 cup of water after cooking it for the first 10 minutes without adding water. Now in another pot, I'm going to add a good amount of oil, let it heat up, and then I'm going to start frying the meat. If you don't want to fry your meat, you can just leave it, but I want the rice to be very tasty, so I will be using the same oil I used to fry this meat to cook my rice, and that's where my rice is going to come out very yummy and so tasty. So after frying the meat, I'm going to use that same oil and add my 1 sliced onion, a tablespoon of the minced ginger paste, a teaspoon of thyme, and then throw in 1 bay leaf. That's the remaining bay leaf. We are going to stir this and then add the sliced tomatoes. Now I'm going to add the 2 scotch bonnet peppers I showed you earlier. I just used a knife to chop it up. Mix everything together and then cover the pot. Allow this to fry until the tomato is really dry. Guys, make sure these tomatoes is very dry. That way your rice will be very tasty. Trust me guys, you need to fry this to be really dry. And after frying this, I'm going to add half teaspoon of the garlic powder, half tablespoon of curry powder, 1 tablespoon of paprika powder, a teaspoon of nutmeg, and then I'm going to add the coconut milk. If you have time to process the fresh coconut, then you can do that, but I'm going to be using the tin coconut milk. Once I added that, I went ahead and poured in the liquid stock I got from cooking the meat, tasted it before I started adding more seasoning and salt. So I added extra 1 knorr cube, making it in total 3 knorr cubes, and I also added a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Mix everything together and add the parboiled rice. I've already washed the rice like I told you. After parboiling the rice for about 7 to 10 minutes, you should wash it properly with a clean cold water. Now we are going to cook the rice for about 10 to 15 minutes. After about 10 to 15 minutes, we are going to stir everything and then cover it with a foil paper or with a cooking sheet and allow it to cook for additional 10 minutes on a low heat. Before you cover the rice with the cooking paper, you should cook it on a medium heat for about 10 to 15 minutes. Now once you add the cooking paper or the foil paper, you should turn the heat to low and allow it to cook properly till all the liquid is dried up and till the rice is very soft. So after tasting the rice, my rice was properly cooked. It was soft to my liking. I went ahead and garnished it with some spring onions and some basil leaves, fresh basil leaves. Guys, you should try this. It was so delicious. It was so tasty. I'm telling you, you should give this a try. I believe you have almost all the ingredients I used in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.